Hello ladies and gentlemen, today's topic is the Maynard type tape rhyming system. It was a very clever little device that actually fires your gun without placing a percussion cap on the nipple. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Capandball here, your favorite gun channel in beautiful bright English language, and the gun I have in my hands is the model 1855 pistol carbine. Well, we are still not talking about the history because this is the middle part, the second part of the series. This will deal with the Maynard tape rhyming system. The first part was dealing with the cartridges and the last one will be about the history of the gun, and I'm going to shoot it of course to see the accuracy of this whole system. But today we are talking about the tape priming system, which is quite interesting. It is quite interesting. It was a method for priming your gun without placing the percussion cap on the nipple, and to speed up the loading procedure, to spend much less time for reloading the gun, which seems quite useful from a tactical point of view. And that is too short to feed. So in this episode you will learn the history of the tape priming system, and I will also show you how to make your own tape very easily. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to revive your model 1855 rifle, musket or pistol carbine, now this is your video. Of course there are many other guns that were actually featuring this tape priming system, like on this pistol carbine, so which means that probably this can be useful for much more people, not just the owners of the service arms. But before we continue, please like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe to our channel. If you wish to support us, then please do it through Patreon, patreon.com/capandball. That's our page. Here you will find exclusive content from me. That's a great support. Remember that Google is not on the side of gun channels, which means that your support is very important. And we are also present on the History of Weapons and War platform, which is an excellent hiding place for gun nuts like us. So visit us there as well, ladies and gentlemen. This priming system was patented by Dr. Edward Maynard, a dentist in Baltimore. His goal was to shorten the loading time of muzzleloaders by eliminating the time-consuming phase of removing the cap from the cap pouch and placing it on the nipple. Maynard was born in 1813 in Madison, New York. He had a plan to become a military officer, but after a semester spent at West Point, he resigned due to poor health and became a dentist. He had excellent political connections, as he was the dentist of many of the US high society. He also spent a time in Russia, trying to sell his inventions to the Russian army. While negotiating about this, he established good connections with the family of the Tsar as well. He was a talented inventor. He submitted altogether 23 firearms-related patents during his life. Probably the most successful were the first and second model Maynard breech-loading guns. The first model carbine was adopted by the US Army in 1856, and a year later, Maynard founded the Maynard Arms Corporation. The carbines was manufactured by the Massachusetts Arms Company in Chicopee Falls under contract. This company was incorporated March 5, 1850, and was founded by Joshua Stevens, Horace Smith, and Daniel Wesson, who later founded Smith & Wesson. The roll primer and its feeding system was one of Maynard's first financially successful military inventions. His patent of September 22, 1845, number 4208, actually claimed two inventions: the priming tape, a paper strip with primer pellets sandwiched between two layers, and its feeding mechanism. His priming compound was mixed from 100 parts of mercury fulminate and 60 parts of gunpowder. He actually described two systems for the feeding, one with a ratchet feeding the primers and one with a hand moving the primers under the hammer one by one. Both could be mounted on converted flintlocks. His priming mechanism was trialed by the US Army on 300 converted flintlock muskets, and it proved to be successful and seemed reliable, so the Army decided to purchase the system. They paid $50,000 US in 3 parts for the use of the invention on all service arms. Not a bad business at all. The hand-actuated feeding system was accepted for service by the US Army, while the system with the ratchet was adopted by the British Army during the Crimean War, integrated into the locks of green breech-loading carbines. The green carbine was patented by James Green in the US in 1854 and was also manufactured by the Massachusetts Arms Company at Chicopee Falls. It was trialed in limited numbers by the US, but failed due to its complex operation. The British Army, however, ordered 2,000 of that for the cavalry, but these carbines were never issued to frontline troops due to concerns about the fragility of its cartridges. The tape of the pistol carbine was narrower and the spacing between the priming pellets were smaller due to the smaller size of the locks. The color was red to easily differentiate them from the rifle musket rolls. The individual strips were wrapped in paper and 10 of these strips were bundled in a waterproofed, round tin box. So these are both Maynard type tape primers. They were both patented in the 1845 patent, but they are completely different. Both were designed by Edward Maynard. This is the 1855 pistol carbine. This is a system that actually the US Army adopted. And this is from a green carbine, which saw some service in the British Army in a quantity of 2,000 pieces. This is a completely different system, but they are both designed by Edward Maynard. So this green carbine system is also actuated by the hammer, but there is a ratchet here that is feeding the primers one by one under the hammer. You can see how the ratchet is turning. This was also a good system. The other system is what was accepted in 1855 for the pistol carbines and also for the rifle muskets, is actuated by the hammer as well, but we have a hand here. This hand is pushing the primers one by one up, and it is spring loaded, so here's a leaf spring that is forcing the hand forward to grab the primers. Now there's another spring here. Now this has nothing to do with the mechanics. This is actually a fire shield. So when the cap explodes here, it will direct the flames into this compartment and will not let it into the compartment where your primers are, which means that they won't cook off, which is quite important. The tape priming system is automatic. A roll of primers were placed in the device integrated into the lock plate. When cocking the hammer, the system moved the new priming pellet over the nipple automatically. The system was redundant, so the firearm could still be fired with traditional percussion caps. I'm pretty sure that most of you wonder whether this gun can be fired with the roll cap from our childhood. This is a paper roll cap that we use for toy pistols with great fun. Actually, they are much less loud than back in my childhood days. So it's a good question because this is the same concept. Well, it won't fire. I will show you why. There are two reasons behind it. So the first reason why this is not working is because the priming pellets integrated into the paper are just not high enough, which means that the hand cannot grab them, so the system won't be able to feed the primers under the hammer over the nipple. And the second reason is, even if you have that primer, let's put one, okay, even if you have that primer just at the right place, like this, it is just too weak to fire the gun. So this pistol can be fired with the normal percussion cap without any problem, but it has the tape primer, which makes Capandball always think how to solve this problem, how to try the tape priming system. And I came up with an idea that might work. Unfortunately, this is not the full version of the film, as it is against Google's policy to show the production of the primer tape. If you wish to watch the full version, including the 8-minute part about the secrets of making the primer tapes, please visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/capandball. And this is how the primer works. So when you're inserting it, put the first one in between the fire shield and the hand. So when you start moving the system, I won't close the door now so you can see the inner mechanism. It will start feeding the primers. Like that. And you see, there is one under the hammer over the nipple. So if you fire the gun now, it will fire. And the next one goes out. And it will fire. It is so easy. Let's check it. It worked. Let's see if I can repeat. It works! I love it! Perfect. So this priming compound was sandwiched in between two layers of paper, and it was then covered with lacquer varnish to waterproof it. In theory it worked, in practice it did not. It was absolutely not waterproof. In 1859 and 61, the US Army conducted trials with this system again, and they found out that every second of the primers won't go off, which is quite a high rate of failure. It had feeding problems, it was absolutely unreliable in muddy conditions, so from a tactical point of view, it was worse than the percussion cap. The system itself is redundant, which means that you can still place a percussion cap on the nipple and fire the gun like that, which seems inconvenient, but it is much more reliable. So when in 61 this whole system was abandoned, the older guns did not have to be converted because the nipples were still there. This Maynard tape priming system was not only integrated into the lock of the military guns, but it was also widely used on civilian arms. But it was very costly, so which means that it made the gun more expensive and it was not reliable. Which means that from the 60s, early 60s, not just the military but also the civilian arms dropped that concept. Edward Maynard lived a long life. He died on the 4th May 1891, and up until his death he submitted many patents about firearms that were real leap forwards towards the metallic cartridge guns, breech loading, which means that even if this concept was not perfect, he must still be remembered for his excellent ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. You've been watching the Cap and Ball channel. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Please also support us on patreon.com/capandball, and please visit us, be the member of the History of Weapons and War platform, which is a good hiding place for gun nuts like us. Ladies and gentlemen, up until next time, stay cool and keep your powder dry.